We are good, guys. Welcome to the Joyage Kingdom. I'm Cade. Replacing the voice inside your head for now, giving you a break from the constant internal monologue that is the human mind. I want to say first, thank you for listening, reviewing on whatever platform you're on. We're out on LinkedIn, I think, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch. There's like 16 different channels. If you're watching this on YouTube with us, you can like leave comments. We can see your comments right here. If you're watching this on another medium, I won't be able to see your stuff in real time. But yeah, make sure you leave a like in this video, subscribe to the channel, join the kingdom. Today, I'm joined by the head of business development at X2Y2 Marketplace, a very known competitor in the battle that we're seeing right now between all the marketplaces. It's actually really interesting, kind of watching this play out.
It is. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but it's been a ride. It's only been 6 months. Well, it's been a little bit more than 6 months, but man, time flies.
Man.
What do they say? 6 months in NFTs is like 15 years, 20 years, and.
It really is, dude. It really does feel like that. But anyways, I see Crypto Dreams in the house. What's up, man? Good to see you. So yeah, anyways, X2Y2. We got lots of things to talk about as far as the marketplaces. Lots of drama in the news about like Magic Eden going to different royalties. OpenSea sort of weighed in, but it's a lot of just like influencers and some of these big time Twitter accounts kind of talk about these things. Before we dive into like all that, how did you get into the X2Y2 ecosystem?
That's a good question, actually. How did I get into X2Y2? Well, it all started at the beginning of the year. I literally got involved. Man, I like the glasses.
No, you want to keep? I can keep them on. We'll keep them on.
No, you don't have to.
Well, I'll cut it at 10 minutes. I'll cut it back. I like to look like a human when I'm doing my podcast clips, but I'll keep it on until the 10-minute mark.
All right, cool. So I got involved right at the beginning. I think it was literally just 6 days later, after the software or the platform launched, and effectively it was just lucky timing. I was just getting involved into I've been into crypto just like everyone else. Bought the top, saw the bottom. I was like, oh man, what the hell is this? Dropped it for a little bit, and then a friend of mine was looking at a crypto job, and I was telling her, be like, hey, this is the future. It literally is the future. And I was like, wait a second, it really is the future. I should look into this. So this is how I got back into it. And then X2Y2 launched. I got involved in Discord. It's a true Web3 story, effectively. I got involved in Discord. I saw that people needed help with tons of different questions. It was right at the beginning of my effectively NFT career. And then one thing led to another. I was just spending time helping people, just like you do in any project. And then I started making suggestions. And then one of the mods was like, hey, I quite like your the suggestions that you're posting out there. Do you want to join as an ambassador? Join as an ambassador.
Wow.
I started doing some raids because we needed X2Y2 to be known a little bit more right at the beginning, because as you know, most of the collections only put the OpenSea link. And then at the time, LuxRare had launched 1 month before. So then collections were putting the LuxRare link. So we need to go and put the X2Y2 link. So we started by doing a few raids. I gathered a few people within Discord, made some raids.
That's awesome.
Then I got promoted to mod. Then I got into the team meetings, and then literally one thing led to another. Organized the calls, and then next thing you know, I got into head of business development for the project.
Damn, bro, that is a wild. I feel like I was right there. You want to know why I feel like I was right there with you? Because my origin story is literally identical to yours. So when I made my first YouTube video, I think I was at like 400 or 500 subscribers. I've been making videos for like 10 years. So that shows how terrible I was at figuring out the game. It's a hard game, the YouTube thing. So for a long time, I've been making videos. And one day I was traveling, still living in my car. It was a bad situation. And this was probably last August or September. And I was like, you know what? I've been really obsessed with this NFT shit. Let me just make a video. Like maybe I'll like this video. Maybe this video will do well. So I made a video. It got like 110 views or something, but it was more than I was used to. And I was like, okay, that's a start. I can at least sort of maybe try that. So I made a couple more videos like that. And I really enjoyed sitting down to the camera, doing some research and putting on a video I was kind of proud of. And I was like, oh, this is great. So I started making videos, and I had like 30 or 40 videos probably at that point. And then I was really involved in this project that I was really excited about called Space Apes. They've now rebranded to Ugaverse. And I basically made a video saying, hey, really, I'm a fan of this project. However, I've got all these reservations about it. There's some things I haven't answered. I just want to put it out there and just see what happens. So I made the video, posted it. The team saw the video. They reached out to me. I had like, again, a few hundred subscribers. And they're like, hey, we really loved your video. We saw that you made like 40 other videos. Do you want to join the team? And I was like,
Cool.
What? I was like, yeah, I guess. He was like, yeah, man, like you'll help in Discord, you'll do these things, you'll post videos, and we'll get the access early for like our Genesis holders and all these things. So basically worked my way up the chain like that. And I worked with him for like 6 months, and that's how I got my in into the Web3 world. Then I was full time. So that's actually
So cool,
wild.
man. I have to say, this is a very big reason why I love Web3.
Yeah.
It really is the doors really open up. You have to provide, right? You do have to do something of value, but people notice it, people acknowledge it, and then give you an option and give you an opportunity. Whereas in the old Web2 world, it's become so competitive. If you don't have a master's, you don't get a job nowadays. So it's really amazing. I mean, I have to say, I love Web3, and I'm full time in it, and I love every minute of it. In reality, I had an old Web2 life, and I was working for a fintech company. We got acquired by an S&P 500, but we got acquired by S&P, and working a lot, working long hours. But if you don't enjoy the job, you really feel the hours. When you do enjoy the job, it really doesn't feel the same. And let me tell you, Web3 is many more hours than the old fintech life.
Oh my God.
Finance life.
Yeah, I remember before I did any kind of entrepreneurial ventures like that, I would see someone like Gary Vee saying, I put in 18 hours of work. I was like, motherfucker, there's no way you put in 18 hours of work. And I'm out here putting in 18 hours of work all the time. It's like, oh yeah. It's just because like the time just like keeps slipping from my fingers. I'm like, how has it already been 8 hours? I'm like, I thought I just started.
So have you slept today? Because last time we spoke, you hadn't slept still.
Today was probably my best day of sleep ever. I actually got tired at like 10:30 last night, and I was like, wait, I should take advantage of this. I should make myself fall asleep right now, because I never I don't get this wave of tiredness. I always just kind of stay up, and then I'm just kind of like a groggy zombie the next day. But I actually got like 10 or something hours of sleep, so I feel like a new man. I feel like I'm
all right. Good. We've got full power Cade today.
Exactly, full power Cade. So you were doing the job at Fintech. What was your exact role at that position? Like, how much has that changed to X2Y2? Is it a totally different job now, or?
So effectively, it's very similar. I was product and commercial manager for the platform. So the platform was a fintech product, as we're saying, which was providing a software for traders and portfolio managers that were trading asset-backed securities. So all that stuff that crashed the market, the mortgage-backed securities. That's what the traders they were using our platform to evaluate all the various transactions that were issued. So a lot of what I was doing was related to, there was a lot of external facing aspects of it, where I was going to meet with the traders, going to meet with the portfolio managers, the investment banks, and the hedge funds. And then a lot of it was referring back internally to try and improve the product, which in some way has very similar aspects to X2Y2. At the beginning, it was very much being out there, speaking with market participants, feeding back internally and say, hey, this is what the market needs. This is what the NFT world wants. So there are similarities, but then obviously Web3 is in there, and it's so much more interesting. Also, it moves at such a faster pace. There's so many things happening in such a short period of time that from that perspective, it's a lot more exciting.
Well, one of the things that interests me about the other marketplaces, I'm just going to leave OpenSea out because they were basically the only ones for a long time. So everyone else who's like, okay, we also offer something probably even better than OpenSea. A lot of the things I've been hearing about other marketplaces like the Magic Eden, like X2Y2, like Looks Rare's, their customer service a little bit better, their branding's a little bit better, the people in charge of social media accounts, maybe they understand the game a bit more, or maybe at least they make people feel like it's more of a community than with OpenSea. That's what I've been seeing a lot of the issues with OpenSea. They just feel like OpenSea acts like this entity, and I don't want to talk shit about OpenSea because that's not what I'm here to do. But one of the benefits of like competing and like, I don't even know what the word is, because I feel like OpenSea is more just established, and so they're just doing their thing and continuing to grow. Versus the other marketplaces, when they're in the beginning and they're trying to convince people to come on, they're worrying about these other things that in my opinion, are very important, like brand and community. And that's something I don't see as much of from the top leaders, because they feel like maybe they don't need to after a certain point. But what people feel when they go to Looks Rare, or when they go to X2Y2, or like Blur, which is a new one that people are all like raving about the last couple of days, is they feel like they're part of something, and it's like exciting to be on some kind of new movement. But that's like the one thing that I'm like, that's going to be the key. That's literally going to be the key. I mean, that's what's gotten so many people to X2Y2, right? Or what would you say is like the main reason?
It's interesting you say that. This was actually one of my very first points. So the main thing I focused on when I first joined, which I said, look, people need to be looked after, right? At the end of the day, as a marketplace, we are still a service provider, right? We are joining the creators and we're joining the supply and the demand together. We're the intermediary right in the middle. So we have a job to service both sides of the industry. And by definition, when people have questions, when people have concerns, you need to be there and you need to answer the question. So that is literally the first thing I focused on. Exactly what you say, customer service.
Yeah.
Very simply, just respond to people, right? The thing is that when you start a project, there's so many things that are happening, right? That it is also easy to forget about building a team and making sure that everybody is looked after, because it's so manic. I mean, look, the NFT space is so crazy that, and sometimes you do have some silly questions, but you got to remember that we've all sort of been there at some point where we've all been newbies when you start and you've got no idea what's happening. So, I was trying to be cognizant of this and literally responding to everyone. And that's a large what we've started being known for, which is a good customer service, as well as trying to be involved a lot more. I've spent a lot of time doing AMAs with collections. Just same thing. Look, my view is that the NFT space is literally nascent, right? We're just at the beginning. And while obviously we are competing with each other, the different marketplaces, the different collections, whoever, right? But unless we actually helped each other and work together to grow the space a lot larger than what it is today, we're literally just chasing after a few thousand users, and that's not going to be the way forward, right? So I've been trying to really promote a lot of the good quality collections, work with as many people as possible, and again, just elevate everyone at the same time so that we can grow together as a unit.
Yeah, man, 100%. And Pixels Anonymous says, how does it feel to take a marketplace from nothing to a direct competitor to OpenSea in so many ways? The roller coaster must have been insane. Yeah, I remember when like a Looks Rare X2Y2 was like just starting. A couple people heard of them, and I was in a couple group chats like, yo, you heard of this other marketplace? You used it? And I remember being like, no, like I like why would I? And they're like, oh well, they've got these other things. Like, what would you say is like the main reason people would choose X2Y2 over another competitor?
So it all started with the one main function that we had at the beginning was the bulk listing and the bulk buying. That is one thing that was making it. Basically, we started with making the user interface a lot easier to use and a lot more practical. I mean, if you had 100 NFTs and if you have to go and list them one by one, it's a nightmare, right? So this is where we started. Then obviously we lowered the fees, which had a large impact to bringing some traffic over there. But really, initially, it was all about the UI, creating a better UI and a better UX for people. And then, obviously, one thing led to another. We released a lot more functionality. OpenSea was the only game in town. And look, as you say, we shouldn't diss on OpenSea, because if it wasn't for OpenSea, we wouldn't be here. There wouldn't be an industry, right? They have contributed a lot to the space. But historically, they were a bit slower at implementing new functionality. And I think the fact that we came on and new other marketplaces and that competition in general has been coming in. It's been good, because now you see that OpenSea is also improving their website. They're also improving their platform. So
that's a great point, actually.
Because if it wasn't for this, look, OpenSea could have been like exactly the way it was, even now, if there hadn't been other competition. So I think it is just in any market, right? Any market, competition generally is healthy and promote innovation. And that's really what we're seeing right now, where all of a sudden they're like, okay, fine, shit, we actually need to really improve the platform, because now other tools are getting a lot better and a lot more aggressive as well with their business strategy. So that's where it's been. And now recently, I mean, we can dig into it, but the most recent thing that we've released, obviously everybody knows about the royalties, but we've also released the peer-to-peer loan functionality, which means that you could offer your loan terms to blue chip. NFTs are the ones that are obviously getting the most attention, but it really creates a lot more dynamic market, rather than, it really is a decentralized way of lending rather than the big centralized aspects that existed before. And I think that's the way forward. That's where we're seeing the platform evolve, just bringing more functionality and liquidity to the market.
Yeah, because people are trying to figure out ways to separate themselves and honestly probably find something that's very, very difficult to replicate on their marketplaces, because, you do zero royalties, then OpenSea does zero royalties. It's kind of like with YouTube and like Facebook, like they just copy, like when TikTok started to take over, YouTube was like, all right, well, we'll just take what TikTok was doing because we can, we've got this massive audience. So like, that's the hardest part, is that OpenSea really can just kind of take on whatever the other marketplaces do. But you're right. Like one of the things you guys can offer is something that maybe it's hard to replicate, or it might be just like harder from a standpoint of another position or another marketplace to do, where they're like, man, like maybe we don't really want to do that. And then now there's a separation. Now there's like, okay, we go here because of this reason versus this one. And like another one, because I've had a lot of conversations about the business of Web3 and the blockchain and companies utilizing it, like a real company like Target or Walmart. Rolling it out. And like, obviously right now they're like trying to make a metaverse. I don't know what they're doing. But if Walmart came up with a normal rewards program, but everyone who got the NFT was able to actually use that at a real Walmart, that makes way more sense in my head. If Walmart puts an event on, they can start to build their brand and actually make something really cool. And that's where I've seen it. And that's where I'm like, okay, maybe like an X2Y2 can come in and offer some type of package. Maybe they combine with like someone like, I think it's called the NFT Academy, which is Brett. He's a known like NFT person in the space, and he like helps a lot of companies do that basically. And I was like, I wonder if like an X2Y2 would partner with them or make their own, to where instead of just trading like an eBay or Amazon, maybe now they're helping companies integrate blockchain into their thing using X2Y2, and then maybe that's like another thing that separates them. And I'm not sure like if that's something that X2Y2 would do or if that's a separate thing.
I think you're hitting the nail on the head there. It's definitely the way forward. I mean, as you rightly point out, the big companies out there are now looking into NFTs. They're realizing there's technology there that is being used, that is valuable, and they're trying to find a way to get into it. And I think that partnering with them and providing services and platforms, potentially white labeling services, is definitely the way forward. Because if you look, some of those big brands have tried to release their own NFTs. Yeah. Some of them have done great, and some of them have completely flopped because they don't know. There really is sort of, how do I call this? A sort of secret handshake of the Web3 world for NFTs as to the values and the laws and how people interact. There really is something like this. And if you haven't been in it, then you can't,
it's impossible to know. It's impossible to know. And like when I was talking to Brett about this, he was saying, because I was like, how do they solve this problem? And he's like, well, like it's going to be a market maturity thing until people stop caring about the floor price. But if the company's fine as far as their revenue, and they don't like require the floor price to be at 1 ETH to continue doing their shit, they can still do it regardless of what people think. Then you can pull something like off like a VeeFriends, where Gary Vee basically dropped his collection, made like $100 million, and then worked for a year. And people for a year were like, you suck. You didn't do anything for your community. I put in all this money. And then he drops the toys and the collaboration with Toys R Us and Macy's. And people were like, oh, wait, hold on. So like, I see what he was doing. My bad. And then everyone's like, fine. And that's the benefit you get with someone who has capital and experience. And X2Y2 has all the experience of a marketplace, which is very, very, very different than basically every other service provided out there. You guys are the back end of everything. So it's like, if anyone's going to do it for these companies, I feel like there's no one else other than you guys who would do it. So that just popped in my head while we were talking. That would be crazy.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, hey, you need to be in business planning and business operations, man. I mean, but you're right. Effectively, there's no question about it. And it's interesting what's happening in the market at the moment. You're talking about royalties, and you're talking about, as you say, the ecosystem is changing. And I'm surprised by how many sort of creators, and obviously it's easy for the creators that have already made it to be okay with the royalties changing, because obviously they've made the money and now they have a lot of runway to build the brand. But it is true that I have to say, I'm personally surprised by how many collections are in favor of all of this changing, which in some way is also good, because it will change the way the market, the dynamic of the market. And the fact that, as you say, maybe we'll come back to having higher mint prices, but the money that will be made will have to be there then used to really grow and develop the project and do something with it, rather than just sit there and hope for the secondary market to go through with it or to develop. And I think Magic Eden just recently changed the way they're operating as well. And I think it's a bit of a telltale sign as to where things are going in the future, really.
The part that excites me, because what happened when all this stuff happened, is there were tons of people talking about things. There was a lot of Twitter spaces. Those blew the fuck up. Like, I wish they didn't. I wish it was YouTube streams that did, because I hate Twitter spaces and I don't do them very often. I need to do more. But either way, people are talking, right? And whether or not it's a degenerate guy who has 200K because he shit posts and he's the guy talking, it's like, that sucks. But like, either way, people are talking about it, and people are at least trying to be to use like their critical thinking and think about these things. And after you've heard the echo room a few times, you're like, hold on, maybe like there's actually more to this. And then maybe some of those people, like 5%, will go to a trusted resource and actually learn what's going on and be like, okay, is this good? Like, do I actually support this? Or did my favorite Twitter influencer just say something on a whim when he was drunk on a Twitter space? And maybe that's not the real answer here. And at least people are thinking, because that's the crowd I attract. I don't have as many DJs who watch my channel. And that's why I've been able to make an online business with my YouTube channel that's not that big yet. Because like my specific people who watch the videos. And that's the best part, is because while we have more and more degens, we also are growing the number of people who can think and use this technology and use some of the things that are learning and build businesses around, build sick services, cool products and stuff like that. So in a strange, weird roundabout way, everyone's mad about the royalty situation. People are like, oh, I don't like change. We don't like change. We like, why can't we just do this? Why can't we do that? But at least people are talking. And I've been hearing some really, really great conversations actually too, all over the internet. So,
you know, the way I see the market evolve, I think there's going to be a shift between the artist, the one of one artist, you know, what we call the true artists that are just doing very specific pieces. Those guys,
I got my own small collections.
Those guys obviously rely a lot more on the quality of their art, and they spend a lot more time on the quality of their art. And obviously their collections are smaller. So I think those guys will, and those type of NFTs will tend to trade on platforms that will obviously favor the royalties by definition, right? The other collections, the other creators that are a lot more PFP types, and you know, many more thousands of them, I think the market, as you rightly say, there has been many great conversations that have been had where they say, well, it makes sense. There has been so many scandals as well on the one side, where obviously people ran away with the money, and then the holders are left still trading, and there's still money flowing in that, you know, in those creators' pockets. And this is where, if you look back, it's a difficult topic, because if you look back, because the market has completely changed. You look back last year, and you look at the percentage of the collections that, let's not say rugged, but have not delivered past mint. The percentage of those collections is pretty high. And unfortunately, who lost out? It's not the creators, it's the people that invested the money in there, right? And then obviously, then you've got other people that are being used as exit liquidity. Meanwhile, the creators are still getting money in their pocket. So it's a tough topic, because the real people that are doing something with it are then getting penalized by the fact that royalties are not being distributed anymore, right? But the problem is that there were so many of them. Anyway, so long story short, this is, I think, the response to what happened later. But the good news about this, and the good thing about it, is that we are now seeing, obviously we're in a bear market, right? But the projects that are now coming out are of much higher quality than they were 6 months ago or a year ago. And I think that's the good positive shift that we are seeing in the space, and that will continue with this bear market.
Yeah, dude, it's fucking wild actually seeing the difference in projects and just the difference in like what's going on. Like, I remember there's a period in the market where I was like, is it okay if we just leave NFTs the way they are, these collectibles? And then I was like, for a while, I was like, maybe it is okay. But then when I realized that people are getting smarter and just realizing, I don't really feel like spending all this money, it's not as exciting now that it's been a few months, and you know, we've seen the 700th different lion project, you know, and it's just not that cool anymore. And I remember that was kind of sad for me, because I love collectibles. Like it's hard to see right now in my studio, but I've got a bunch of just random things around. A lot of it's NFT artists that I support. Like I said, I'm a one-of-one artist, so I have my own photography collections. And in regards to royalties there, I was going to say, in my opinion, it's always fell on the shoulders of the creator, in my opinion, at least for me, because I'm building my own brand. I'm doing my YouTube. So all that responsibility falls on my shoulders. The people who bought my NFTs in the beginning, when I first had sold those collections, it was as a photographer. And at that point, I didn't realize I was going to be a YouTuber. I dropped those really early. The photography wave had picked up last summer, and I just jumped in, and I was like, I got great photos. Let me see if mine will do well. And I got lucky. A really big photographer in the space saw it, bought it, tweeted it. And it put me on the map, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And that's when I started doing Discord, and I was like learning about things, making some calls, like buying projects. Then I started doing the YouTube thing. And so when I did that, I realized I kind of had a chance to do something maybe with these NFTs a few months later. So I made another collection with like 20 of them, very, very small collections, and sold them, put them on the OpenSea, didn't tell anybody. And then after like a month, I made a YouTube video where I kind of talked about it. And then that collection sold out for my YouTube fam. And then I would
Awesome.
say probably most of the people ended up becoming YouTuber, people who like watch my YouTube and then bought it. And then I basically made those NFTs instead of just being physical pieces of art or digital pieces of art. They would also be like an access key for me, and they would be basically like a VFriends, but like there's literally like 40 of them. There's so little of them, and my goal is to eventually knock out Joe Rogan from the throne of podcasting, be absolutely number one. That's when all the opportunities come in. I can, maybe I can partner with Celsius, and then all my holders get free Celsius for life, something like that. And I want to be able to do something like that. And that's where all my holders like have a vested interest in me, which is what Gary Vee talked about in the beginning, but only if the creator puts all the responsibility on them and they take all that responsibility. And my holders I don't think they'll care about giving me the royalties. Like, I think they want to support me, and most of them don't sell anyway. So it's a very different mentality, from the traders. And you're right. A lot of collections have no royalties anyway. So I don't know why they're upset.
Yeah, but the thing is that the spectrum is wide, and look, the reality is that it's just like a popularity contest, right? No matter what happens in the world, as popular as you might be as a platform, as a person, as whatever, you will never be able to satisfy everyone, right?
Yeah.
You will never be able to satisfy all sides of the spectrum, and by definition, it opens the opportunity for various products to exist for various purposes. And I think that's exactly what will happen. We'll see a little bit less of those crazy degen plays that don't produce anything else other than the initial collection. Or if they do, they'll be very clear about it, and they will say, because we have seen some collections that have come out and say, you know what, that is all we will do. That is all that will be. It will just be this, and we're planning on doing nothing else afterwards. I think the space is changing, definitely for the better.
Yeah. What are you excited about, I guess? Like, are you excited because a lot of people now are talking about the blockchain technology, because that's where a lot of the creators have sort of shifted their focus. So a lot of people are talking about that now. There comes a point where if everyone is using blockchain and it's just a thing and no one is like talking about it, it's not like a space anymore. It's not an industry. It's just everything. Yeah. Where does that like put people, I guess? Like, where does that leave YouTubers? Where does that leave artists who are like NFT artists? Now it's just like everyone's an NFT artist. So like, where does that leave them? Is that something we should be looking forward to? Is that something that's so far in the future we shouldn't even be thinking about it?
Well, look, the NFT technology itself, I think, is going to completely revolutionize the world in terms of ownership of things, right? The fact that now, or going forward, you will be able to, well, actually nowadays, you will be able to NFT your digital content. And by digital content, I mean, you will be able to NFT your YouTube videos. You will be able to NFT your articles. You will be able to NFT your tweets, right? And if those are being used for commercial purposes in any way, shape, or form, you will then collect money, right?
I like that.
And this is where, so this is where the NFT, this is what it's geared to be, that NFT revolution, right? It's effectively the fact that you will be able to tokenize every aspect of your life and really own things that are your intellectual property. Because at the moment, there are so many things. There were so many things that were posted on the internet in hope of being noticed and then in hope of being contracted for money, right? But there's so much value that already exists on the internet that previous artists were putting out there for free, right? Now they've got the opportunity through NFTs to get money for it, right? Granted, it was interesting in this industry panel where some people were saying that effectively some artists have been not lied to, but they've been misled into believing that royalties were coded into the contracts, right? Unfortunately, people didn't know at the time that they weren't. But what I will say, one thing I'm excited about is that this whole royalty debate I think will serve as an education for creators to realize that they've got a lot more power into their hands than they had before. And I think everybody is going to sort of level up in terms of skills to try and find ways to operate the way they feel is best for their collection and for their attitude towards the general market, right? The NFT market.
Yeah, I agree, because I totally agree. Keep going.
Just one last quick thing on NFTs. The other day I was listening to a podcast. You know who's coming out with NFTs?
Wait. No, Tim Ferriss is that what you're about to say?
No. Okay, I'll give you a hint. It's a car company, and it's a blast from the past. And it's a play on word there. Think about what I'm, like as a blast from the past.
It's got to be the car from Back in the Future, or Back to the Future, right?
100%.
Really?
DeLorean. So DeLorean has now decided that they're going to come out with NFTs,
Okay.
right?
And tell me
So
more.
what happens is that the DeLorean was obviously very famous in the 80s with the Back to the Future movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they decided to stop production. I mean, if you actually look at the history, there was a little bit of a scandal with the owner, but anyway, bottom line is they stopped production, and effectively the brand completely stopped creating anything. However, what they realized is that the brand itself kept on existing for the years to come through movies, through games, through all sorts of, you've got I think even Disney or whichever, they've licensed the DeLorean because it was so iconic
Oh
that the
shit.
brand nowadays, you still know the DeLorean. I mean,
Right.
everybody knows about the DeLorean. So with this whole revolution at the moment, they realized and said, okay, now is the time to sort of bring back the DeLorean. And they've created apparently a whole concept where they said, if we had designed a car in the 2000, what it would look like. If we had designed a car in the 2010, what it would look like. Anyway, long story short, they're now coming out with a new car, and it will be, I think, 9,000 or so NFTs. And the concept that they are adding to it is that when you buy one of those cars, first of all, when you buy one of the NFTs, you're basically buying access to the production line. So you're buying access to potentially ordering a DeLorean. But the addition to that is that all the data that is being collected from the car, because it will be a car from the future, right? Now you look at all the Teslas and everything, there's so much of your own personal information into the car that is being sent out to other providers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's the good old story that Facebook and Google and all this are making money
Sell your
from your
information.
personal, exactly, selling information. And this is where NFTs are going to revolutionize the world, because now you will have companies that will say, we're not going to resell your information. We're going to create an NFT of your information, and then you will be able to decide whether you want to sell that information or not. So there's so many aspects to the technology that are going to be applied in the future. It's fascinating.
Dude, that is, there's no other word right there. That's fascinating as fuck right there. Oh my God. That sounds a lot like, so, well, one, it sounds like Tesla, how you could pre-order your Cybertruck or whatever it's called, like a year in advance or something like that. Like Tesla does that kind of thing, and to just tokenize that to where there's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's like you either own the NFT and you have access, or you don't own the NFT and you don't have access. There's two options there. And it also sounds like with like Gucci or Supreme, when they come out with their drops and there's 1,000 people waiting outside the store to get in. It's like that cuts all that stuff out of the thing. There's no worry about reselling fake ones. There's no worry about anything. It's literally just, do you have it or do you not have it?
So, and you know that obviously a lot of the luxury brands are already using NFTs and blockchain, right? Mm-hmm. They're not publicizing it. They've been using this for donkey's years. When I say donkeys, for some of them for 10 years, but they haven't publicized it because there's such an amalgamation between blockchain and Bitcoin and crypto and massive risk that they didn't want to lose investors and lose people saying like, oh my God, what are they doing with our money? They're putting it into crypto, right? So there's really a slow ramping up of onboarding the rest of the world into crypto adoption and Web3 adoption. And that's what we're seeing. There's going to be this, how do you call it? This bear market is going to be great because the next bull run is effectively going to lead to a whole new wave of adoption, I think.
Yeah, man, it's going to be totally different. And I just went to NFT Seattle, a conference here. And I went to NFT NYC a few months ago, back in the summer, like June. And it was wild because June, I basically met all the YouTubers, met all the TikTokers I've been friends with for so long. So that was amazing to hang out with them. But aside from them, it was like all degens. Some people are building, but for the most part, we were all being degenerates out there in New York. And I had a great time. And then I went to New York. Then I went to Seattle's conference. I'm actually here in Seattle, so it was great. It's literally 5 minutes away. And This was totally different, a bit smaller, obviously. We're deep in this bear market at this point. So everyone here has kind of survived that mark. So there's a level of respect that everyone's got for each other, which was cool. And we're like, okay, you survived. You got something going. Like, I want to hear about it. So this was fun for me. And everyone there was trying to build something, create something. The NFT project founder, they have a service they're trying to do, maybe a marketplace, maybe they're trying to be an in-between for somebody else. Way different. And I met a ton of crazy people, totally by chance too. Like there's multiple people I met just from like them standing by themselves over there, and I just went to say hi. Yeah. And then I'm like, holy shit, I did not know you were this person or this person. Have you been to any of these events? Have you guys had like a position or a table, a booth, anything like that?
So we went to NFT NYC. That's actually probably the first one that we went to. And then recently I went to Mainnet, I went to SmartCon, And same thing. So in New York, I mean, they were great events. I have to say, NFT NYC was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
It was the first one that I did, and it was.
Wait, did you go to any like after? Did you go to like any events or anything around that? I probably was at the same place as you a few times. We just passed each other.
Yeah, we must have for sure. And now there's obviously NFT London. I'm based in London, so and that's going to be
okay.
5 minutes down my doorstep.
Nice.
So, I'm looking forward to going to more conferences next year. So obviously now it's tapering off, and there's Art Basel coming in December, right, in Miami, obviously. But it's going to be. I gotta say, I love the industry. I love the space. Everything is so much more fun. I mean, look, just we spoke last time, and everything is so much more flowing than the old Web 2 world. And I think there's a good aspect in the sense that you now have a lot of the professional that were in Web 2 that are coming into Web 3. They're bringing that sense of professionalism and organization that existed in Web 2, but they're getting rid of all the sort of corporate bullshit that existed as well, right? And as such, it's going to create a fun environment to work in, as well as still a very professional one, I think, going forward. And it's going to be great.
Yeah, 100%. And before I get to the next question, I wanted to say, if you're based in London, I know a couple of YouTubers out there who are crushing it as far as the business side. They're definitely more interested in the business side. I'd love to connect you guys. Tom Youngs, Zerk, and then or Liam Zerk, and then Spaceman. 3 of the guys, they're crushing it. I'll link you guys up because they're probably right down the street. I'm sure they also have a podcast show, so maybe we'll get you guys on. But I'll make sure to send you their information after this.
Awesome.
But
yeah.
Anyways, next question. This is interesting for me. Has X2Y2 or yourself in related to Web3, have you guys fucked up anything where you were like, yeesh, that was rough? And then how did you guys bounce back from that?
Oh man. So I gotta decouple myself a little bit between my personal motives and an X2Y2. I gotta say, when we first came out of that royalty thing, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that, right? Because it is true that Web3 was technically started to support the artists, right?
Yeah.
But then when obviously you hear all sides of the argument, you're like, oh, right, okay, I see where both sides are coming from, right? There was obviously a lot of backlash, and this whole royalty debate is literally only just starting, right? Obviously, considering we did that and considering other platforms are now following suit, it feels like, yes, it was the right thing to do, but who knows what the future will reveal the right move was, right? What else? Did we mess up something? I think for the most part, we've sort of been, because we've been trying to gain market share, right? All the moves that we've been making were sort of trying to be different and sort of aggressively, when I say aggressively, trying to incentivize people to come to the platform, right? I think the biggest move that we made was to reduce the platform fees from 2% to 0.5%, right? That's probably the biggest thing that we did. And I'm surprised that some others haven't followed suit. But on the rest of this has been just pure development, pure dev work, which is adding more functionalities. So from that perspective, there hasn't really been a big fuck up yet, So fingers crossed.
I'll knock on wood for your whole team right now, bro.
I'll tell you, the biggest fuck up was apparently at the very beginning, and actually I wasn't there because it was within the first few days.
Hey, you did all right.
Something happened with the airdrop, but even then I think there was a miscommunication or confusion. People thought that it was related to X2Y2, but apparently it wasn't. It was more with MetaMask. Anyway, all of this is way behind us, and since then it's been good. So I will say the dev team, they are extremely diligent. Obviously I'm working with them on a daily basis. The devs are based in Japan, and if you know anything about the Japanese culture, is that the work ethic is extremely good over there. It's extreme. Dude,
I get all my work ethic from my Japanese side. I'm half Japanese.
Oh, you are?
I swear to God, all of it comes from Japan because I lost it in high school. I lost it for a couple of years there. I got used to I got used to like normal classes, and it was kind of easy. I transferred from like a I don't know, I guess you'd say like a better school to like a normal random public school, and my work ethic dropped, and then it came back once I got more involved in things. But you're right. As far as working with developers, when I was working with the Ugaverse team for like 6 months, I worked a lot with the developers and talking to them. And they're a different breed. Like straight up, if you're a developer, you're a different breed. I don't know how you do it, but they're crushing it. And they literally work around the clock. Like, I don't know how they're doing it. They just do things. You're like, hey, can you do this thing? Who makes this thing and then adds? And they're like, yeah. Don't worry about it.
It's
like,
a passion,
okay.
man. It's a passion. Being a developer is a passion. It's impressive.
Yeah, 100%. And then there was a question there I had. What do you talk? So in regards to the airdrop that you just mentioned, Blur.io. This is like literally in the last 40 hours. I don't know if you know too much about it, but essentially for people who don't know, I'm sure there's some people who have heard about it. There's some type of new thing going on that Blur.io is trying to do. And you get this airdrop depending on, I think, your transaction volume on OpenSea or something like that. And then you basically list an NFT in their marketplace. It's a way to get market share, like you guys were talking about, a way to get people excited. LooksRare did this with the LooksRare token a long time ago. And they're looking to do something like that. Has X2Y2 thought about doing to maybe differentiate themselves? Like, I don't know if that's even possible actually, but a marketplace dropping an NFT collection that would have some type of specific thing that would be similar to that, which would get people on board and to be using it. Like, is that something you guys would even be interested in, thought about?
So this is exactly how we started. It was exactly the same concept. So the way LooksRare did it, we did exactly the same way. And the way Blur is doing it is effectively this. If you had X volume on OpenSea, you were getting X amount of tokens from X2Y2. Mm-hmm. So we did this. But look, it is a great first step to gather initial interest on the platform. The reality is a lot of people are doing this for farming incentives, for farming purposes. They get the tokens, they dump them right away, it crashes the price, and then you're hoping that you keep those people afterwards. So while it is a great tool to get initial users to come in, unless you have a very good quality tool with very good, that serves the purpose. And by the looks of it, Blur seems to be competing with Gem, and they were saying they're so much faster, it's so much more intuitive. Mm-hmm. If from the feedback that I've seen, if it is indeed the case, then they will keep a lot of those users, right? Also, a lot of those guys, if they got the token and if they see that the platform is good, they may not decide to dump their tokens right away. So you have to have, more importantly than the tokens, you have to have a good quality platform. And I think that's what we are now completely focusing on, is just creating value for our users, for our holders, for everyone that is planning on using the platform, or anyone that isn't quite sure. And that's the reason where you were talking about innovation. And really, that's what we've been doing. We've been focusing on not replicating what exists and on the other platform. We've been working on creating new functionality, new and innovative functionality that will attract people. And forget about attracting people, that will make the NFT space as a whole more intuitive to use and just better in general.
So the reason I brought up the NFT collection is because I noticed Ledger, and the reason I'm even bringing this up is because I think you guys have a similar way of going about things like Ledger does. So Ledger, I'm sure you know, Ledger's like the wallet, and they have a great brand. My friend Cade works there in their basically their business and partnerships and stuff like that. So she started as a TikToker. They ended up bringing her on board because she talks a lot about crypto safety, NFT safety, and all those things. She was great on camera, and they basically brought her onto the team. And since then, they've even more ramped up their brand. So people, they trust Ledger. They like Ledger. When people think of Ledger, they think nice things because they have great branding and do all the things right. And I thought X2Y2 also has a similar feel. When people think about X2Y2, similar thoughts come up, at least for me. That's why I was like, Ledger dropped an NFT collection. It came off well. Even though like it went up initially, then went back down a little bit, people weren't like fudding like they were with these random PFP Panda projects. They were like, no, Ledger's got a plan. They've got a product. They've got an actual thing going. We believe in this shit. They're going to keep going. We want Ledger to win now. And that's a totally different type of NFT project. And that's where I was like, man, X2Y2 could drop something like that, because if OpenSea did that, no, people would be pissed. They'd be like, even more money? Like, are you kidding me? Like, how much money do you want? So people would be mad. But that's where I'm like, man, X2Y2 potentially has an opportunity. That's why I just like it popped in my head. But
so we did start with an NFT collection. We actually have a collection called Age and Youth Rebel, which is in the works, which has been in the work for a while. But I think what we realized is that there are, first of all, an NFT collection is indeed a lot of work because and it's a lot of community management.
True.
You're gonna create the hype. You're gonna, there's so much work. So I'm actually involved in a separate NFT collection outside of X2Y2 called Half-Life, and I see the amount of work that comes with just building the team, building the product, then managing the community. It really is a around the clock work. And then, as you rightly say, let's imagine you do all this work, right? You launch the collection, and if for any reason the collection mildly flops, right? If the floor price doesn't go through the roof, then people are flooding it, and then it just kills your project. So it's while I agree with you that it could be a great thing. Right now, we've focused again more on building the platform and building the tool rather than releasing another NFT collection out there. Then who knows what it does. So
yeah.
The focus is on building more tools, right?
Gotcha.
Building more functionality for the NFT market as a whole. But we will revisit, no question, I think, the collection.
Yeah, because I was thinking that in the future, I think NFT prices might change the way they drop because of the thing you just said, which is like, yeah, if it either goes right or it doesn't go quite right, and then everyone's mad. Yeah. I hope at least NFT projects, because of this exact reason, will probably stop doing their drops like that, where it's all this hype and attention drop, and then we see what happens, and then we cross our fingers and hope. And maybe they drop it as something that's not anything related to that, where it's like, hey, like this is what we're doing. This is basically a seed fund, like a seed rounding, just to raise some money and to get these things going. Like, here's where we're headed, more of like a business thing.
So actually, talking about this, and right there in the audience, we had Pixels Anonymous, right? And so I did an AMA with Pixels Anonymous just as early as last week. And what I've been seeing in how the NFT space has been changing is that 6 months ago, as you rightly point out, the NFT collections used to come out and they used to use their collection as a seed round to then build a product, right? Right now, what we are seeing is that people are already building a product and then using the NFT to give their holders access to this product. So it's a completely different mentality where now creators and collections are coming to the table with something already. They're already producing value, and that which is reassuring from a holder or from a potential holder's perspective, because you see that those guys are serious, right? And you can also see whether you like what they're offering or whether you don't like what they're offering. You're not there buying hopes and dreams and fugazi, hoping that they will do something with it. So it's a drastic shift in what we're seeing in the NFT space. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I don't know if you're open to talking about the other project, but like what's the other NFT project you're working on?
Sure, by all means, yeah. It's called Half-Life, and effectively it's a manga NFT. So it's going to be sort of the first manga NFT based on the Ethereum blockchain. And the idea came from the founder, the true, like the original ideas man. He's a huge manga fan, and he's also a collector. So he's got Pokemon cards that are apparently quite valuable. And he was looking at all this and he was saying, okay, I love my Pokemon cards, but the reality is I cannot use them, right? I cannot actually physically touch them, use them, and play with them, because obviously they lose value. So with Web3, you then have the opportunity to replicate that sort of rarity system, right? We've got a whole mechanism that will replicate all of this, but you can still get the enjoyment of it through reading the manga and also getting a physical copy of the manga itself if you wanted to. So this is what we're building. We're effectively building a global manga franchise. That's the plan. The plan is to build a global manga franchise that will be very rare because it will be serialized. So every time you mint a chapter, it will have serial number. The early serial numbers will be the rarest. And then as time goes, we want to create an anime, we want to create merch, we want to create a movie, et cetera, and really build it big. And effectively, the way it will work is that the early supporters and the early investors into those NFTs will be the guys that will be rewarded the most when the franchise generates revenue. So some of the revenues from the franchise will be redistributed back to the holders of the NFTs.
Very interesting. Are you also super into manga?
Yeah, well, so I do have to say I got into it. What I didn't realize is that when I was a kid, I grew up, all the cartoons that were on TV were Japanese cartoons from manga. So Dragon Ball Z and all that good stuff. I was watching all that stuff, and then I realized later, I was like, wait a second, those are all Japanese mangas.
Yeah.
So then I got into mangas, got involved into this, and I was like, oh, I love, as you rightly say, the culture, the way it's being drawn, and the sort of the craziness, like the big, the big movement, the big eyes. I got used to that, so I really love that. And when I got the opportunity to jump into this, I said absolutely 100%.
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, actually back there I have Pokemon cards, and I've got my stack of Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are like literally one of my most prized possessions. I don't even know how many of them are real, because too bad I can't track to like know if it's real without sending them off. I can't just have an NFT that'll just tell me if it's real or not. So I have these cards, but dude, same here. I was watching a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, a lot of Pokemon. I never got into like Dragon Ball Z and stuff like that, but
so this is exactly the point of NFTs. As you rightly say, right now you're not sure whether they are real or not, and with NFTs there's no doubt. Right, there's no question that what you hold is the one original NFT, or the one and only, because it's recorded on the blockchain. We were talking about technology earlier, and that's the beauty of it. And I think effectively that is that project, the manga project, that will be the beauty of it, is that if you hold that NFT, if you hold the very first chapter among the first 10 series volumes, then you are one of the first initial holders, and there will be no one else.
Very cool, dude. Speaking of first NFTs. Oh no, keep going.
No, go ahead.
No, I'm about to go into a different direction. So
I was about to say, and then because you will have the opportunity to get the physical copy of the manga, which will be serialized as well, there will be no question that it was the holder of it. There will be no question. You will be the only one that will hold that original copy.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's cool, because before I go into a different direction, that's why I held my Antonym NFT, which was similar. They had a physical product. Everyone was really excited. Their floor was at like 1 ETH at one point. And I held mine just all the way because I liked it. I liked the product. I liked their business structure. I still like them, even though they've taken a little while to get things going. But they have their first ever like in real life collectible coming, and mine's shipped. So I'm like, this was cool. Like, even though I spent probably way too much money and I probably lost all the value, it's cool to like, if they in the future win, like, at this point, there's no point to sell because it's so much lower than it was when I bought. I might as well keep this original and keep the NFT, because who knows what happens in the future. But at least I know for a fact, and whoever, if I potentially resell it, they will know for a fact this is the legit one. It's, you can check it. It's right there on the blockchain. So it's actually really, really cool.
100%.
So speaking of first NFTs and first round of NFTs, do you remember your first NFT? Do you still hold it?
I do. I still hold it, and luckily, my first NFT was actually a utility NFT. It's So, do you know the Nifty Alpha, the podcast?
Dude, yeah, they are crushing it.
So, I went to college with Nick O'Neill, with NFT Nick.
What? You're kidding me? Get out of here.
We went to American University. Him and I, we went to a few spring breaks together and had a few, while night out.
God.
So when I started getting into NFTs, I was on Spotify and I was looking for NFT podcast, and I see Nick O'Neill, the Nick O'Neill podcast. I'm like, is this the same Nick O'Neill I listened to? And the man has a recognizable voice. I was like, holy shit, this is Nick O'Neill. So I started following everything that he was doing. And then, lo and behold, the man is launching his own NFT. He started building, obviously, a whole, media business. So that was the very first NFT that I built. When we were in college, Facebook was starting. And I remember so many times him being at his desk in his room. He had started a blog that was called allfacebook.com. And it was exactly what it says on the tin. It was a blog about everything related to Facebook news and everything about this. And we were like, what the hell are you doing, man? Come on out with us. She's like, no, man, I've got this. I've got to do this. Little did we know that a few years later he sold it for a few million, and then went on to creating other media businesses.
Okay.
So I said, look, if I'm gonna buy an NFT, I'm gonna buy Nick O'Neill's NFT. I know he's gonna do something with it. So that is my very first NFT. And now, obviously, basically, that's almost what got me more interested and involved, because I was like, okay, there's something in there. Very first NFT, I still have it.
Dude, that is fucking insane. That is not what I thought was going to happen from that question. Wow, that's so crazy. Yeah, honestly, like I know they're probably, I would say they're likely in the top 3, if not number 1, as far as like NFT shows. Like they have a crazy following, and I've seen some of their episodes. I didn't find them till just a couple months ago, honestly. Maybe it's because I was producing so much of my own that I wasn't like actively looking out there. But they've got a crazy cult following. Like people love these guys. So that's super wild that you know them. Wow, was not expecting that. Damn,
yeah, went to college together, and it was fun.
Man, did you guys do anything like any spring breaks that were just? Well, you probably can't even talk about them, but I imagine there were some crazy experiences. Wow.
We did. We had so I went to college. I was at AU for my junior and my senior year, and we went. I think we went both years. The very first year I went with someone else. We went to Panama City for spring break. So
oh boy, oh boy,
it was fun.
Panama City, bro. Panama. I know most of my college friends went to Panama City at some point in their college. I don't think I did because I'm pretty sure I was in a relationship every time there was like a fun spring break thing, which sucks for me. But you know, I live and learn, I guess. It'll be fine. My first NFT was nothing of the sort. It was I don't hold it anymore. It was not a utility-based NFT. It was Evaverse NFT. It was a gaming project that I thought was underrated. It had a little bit of hype in the very beginning. And then when I like kind of thought about buying in, it lost all this hype. People were like, oh, it's going to take so long. And I'm sitting there going, wait, this is a playable game right now. People are playing the game on Steam right now. What am I missing here? Why is no one talking about this? So I bought 3 of them, bought one of the rarest in the whole collection, sat on it. I paid like maybe $250 total for all 3 of them, and just sat on it for like 9 months. And then they come out with a massive partnership with Doge Pound and this other gaming studio. Boom, flies to like 0.4 ETH. Sold the very first NFT I bought for 2 ETH. And I remember that I was like holy shit. And then I lost all that money, I think, buying some other stupid NFT. But not a bad one for my first NFT, I guess. But
yeah, no, great. I got to tell you, I'm the worst trader out there.
Me too. I'm terrible. That was pure luck.
Because like you, I'd like to buy something that I believe is going to have some potential. So I just hold it. And
it was tough for me to sell. It was really hard. Most of the time I don't. Most of the time I hold. I've got multiple NFTs that I held way too long, or I never sold them. Like my antonym I just talked about, like I still have it, even though I paid like $3,000 for it, and you know, it's fine. It's fine.
To like 100 now.
Yeah, it's like literally, it hurts a little bit, but it's honestly cool too. Like because some of these projects that I remember from like the OG days back last summer, last fall, that have dropped in value, but they still have that sentimentalness that I still want. Like when I see cool cats, I'm like, oh man.
So you know what I wonder? I wonder if there is a potential that some famously rugged collection might become like cult collections.
Bro, it's gonna be it just blew up again because Logan Paul, it was an anime Oni One Force. That project was like dead. And then this picture went viral of Logan Paul buying like a $2 million one of them a year ago. Now it's worth like $20. And that because of that photo, it started trending and everyone picked up the floor. The floor did like a 3x overnight or something. Yeah. That potentially could be it, dude. That might be the alpha.
Yeah. I think they will be. I mean, this is where the internet in general is cool, and the whole digital culture is cool, because all of a sudden you can have a movement that just starts from nowhere, and then something cool comes out of it.
Exactly. So, do you have any in real life friends who like get this stuff, or are you pretty much everyone who does this thing is online?
Man, so from that same college, we had another, in real life friend who was in Bitcoin, like massively in Bitcoin since the very beginning. He was mining Bitcoin on his laptop, right?
Dude, what the fuck? Why did we all miss this in college? I had a roommate who did the same thing. He was super deep in this stuff, and I was like, nah, that's not for me.
I did the same thing. I was like, what are you doing, man? What are you talking about? I just didn't follow it and whatever. Okay. Unfortunately, he got unlucky because he had it on Mt. Gox at the time. And obviously we know what happened with Mt. Gox, so they lost the Bitcoins. But yeah, so I've got this friend who's there, who is definitely into that technology. Other real life friend that not really.
Yeah, I was gonna say I got a couple of people in Seattle who like work actively in Web3, but no one who's like kind of casually in Web3. They either know it or they don't know anything about it.
Well, so NFT Nick, Nick O'Neill is my only sort of old school friend that is definitely, and he's more than into NFTs. But all my other previous friends from Web2 life, I don't think any of them are into NFTs. And when you talk about NFTs, like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Man? Have you like been in contact with? Did you go like on the show? Have you talked to them at all?
I have, yeah. So I saw him. Just as early as 3 weeks ago when I was
Oh,
at
okay.
Mainnet and SmartCon, and then I saw him again. Yeah. So the past few times I went to New York, I saw him
Very
both
cool.
times. Went to have a little brunch, and yeah, that was cool.
Nice, dude. That is super cool. That's the best part. Like when I actually met some of my people that I talk to on a daily basis in the YouTube space, like I didn't really know what to expect. Like I was a little bit nervous. Like, are they gonna still be fine? Is it gonna be awkward?
Yeah.
But dude, I mean, like some of these people I am so close with, and like I don't know. I've never really had like internet friends like that until Web3. I feel like. I mean, maybe not really. I don't think. And this is totally different. Like I really, really love this space.
You know, the thing is that it's created an industry where people can make money doing something that they really enjoy,
Yeah.
right? Before, it used to be only the few lucky ones that
Mhm.
could make a living out of a passion, right? Because most of the time, the things that were passions were not really areas of life that were generating a lot of money, right?
Mhm.
Now, with obviously Web3 and the internet and the digital world in general, there are so many of those avenues, so many of those areas of the economy that exist where you can make money. And I think, well, I will tell you, yes, some of NFT Twitter is toxic. There's no question about it, right? So people use it as a punching bag and
Sure.
use it to just as a release of emotions. But the most of the people that I have spoken with, I find, yes, they are overworked and underslept, but in general, they all are in a very positive state of mind with their lives, right? Obviously, we're not talking about the guys that are gambling huge amounts of money and are in massive debt, but
Yeah.
the people that are building, the people that are building in the space, that are working in the space, that are really, building something for the ecosystem, most of them tend to have a pretty positive outlook on life and a good
Mhm.
quality of life, and it's really refreshing to see. I used to be in finance, and I can tell you the people that you used to speak to in finance were kind of 90% miserable, right?
Yeah.
And it's a drastic shift.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And the wildest thing is like I've been wanting to be a YouTuber forever. Like I remember when I was like 9 years old, I'm making YouTube videos, like playing soccer in the backyard, trying to do
Cool.
free kicks. I've been doing it forever. And so I would look at these YouTubers and like those were basically my role models. Didn't really have any in real life. For whatever reason, I'm not sure like if they didn't live up to my standards or something like that. But like the people that I looked up to were superheroes, not superheroes, like heroes in movies, like the
Okay,
Mummy,
yeah.
like just badass dudes. And then YouTubers, like because I think it's because the YouTubers, their goal is to prioritize the viewer. So you feel like they're there just for you. And I really liked that because I just didn't have that in my life. And so being able to like be friends with YouTubers where I watch their video and I feel like they're talking to me, but then I go and text them 5 minutes after the video. I'm like, yo, I love this part of the video. Or like, you should do this, you should do that. That is by far the coolest thing. Like I just did a podcast with Champ and I had Brett on last week. And I was just like, man, like these are guys I watched on YouTube. And like I think their videos are great. And then I'm also talking to, it was almost weird. I was like, wait, we're like actually speaking. I'm not watching a video, you're actually talking. It's the coolest thing ever, man.
So this is the other thing, right? We're at the origin of a new revolution, right? Facebook, Google, YouTube definitely revolutionized the way the world was interacting, right? And the way media content is being created. Before, you had to you had to digest content only from TV. Now,
Yeah.
as you rightly say, what you're doing, what all those guys are doing, they are the ones creating content, and so many people are getting their news and their information just from YouTube, right? So many people are just spending time watching media on YouTube, and this was the beauty, and this was the digital revolution back in the 2000s, effectively, or yeah, I mean, the 90s was not quite there, but let's say the 2000s. And NFTs, we're there in that next generation of the revolution, and that's what I think is so exciting from that perspective.
Yeah, 100%. That's absolutely right. And
Look at
speaking
that.
of like,
Crypto Dream is still shocked when you responded to his message. It is cool. I do have to say, it's always amazing when you send something and someone responds to you. That's cool.
yeah, I remember when I had, I think I had 1,000 followers on Twitter, and I forget why he followed me, but Journey Crypto, who's like an OG crypto YouTuber, someone I watched for literally a year or two, and love this dude. And I remember he followed me on Twitter, and I actually like I was like, whoa, like, what's going on? Like, why did he fall? And I was like freaking out. Like, I will never forget that day. I'm pretty sure that day, because of when that happened, I was like, you know what? This is happening. Like, the fact that he followed me, and I like made all these videos, like talking, or like videos basically where I'm speaking to someone that helped me along my journey, because I was like, I fucking made it. This is my sign. I'm gonna keep going. And those kind of little moments, like for him to take 3 seconds and be like, I'll follow this guy. Like, no big deal. 1% of his day, didn't even forgot about it an hour later. And to me, it like literally changed my life. And that's crazy. Like, I mean, I'm sure it wasn't the same level of for Crypto Dream, because I'm not nearly at that stature yet, but that kind of thing is crazy, that one little decision you can make could impact someone's entire life. And it might be something that you never would have remembered. And I'm sure there's something that you've done where you just said like a thing on the side to someone, and then you walked away and got a Starbucks or something, and they're sitting there going like, you know?
Yeah. And this is where I think this is what I try to remember, and this is what I've been trying to implement. You were talking earlier in terms of X2Y2 customer service. This is what I've tried to implement, and I try to do that a lot, which is people spend the time, as you say, to reach out to you, and sometimes, well, most of the time it's with questions, right? And well, most of the time it's with questions or trying to berate you because they're not happy. But you do have the odd message, and when we do respond, I've spent a lot of time just responding to people when I first started, because I was doing the community management, and you do have the odd person that comes back and say, you know what, thank you so much for getting back to me, thank you so much for your help, thank you so much for this. And as you rightly say, it feels like rewarding to be like, yeah, I helped out. And I think this is the type of positivity, and again, the world is changing towards that positivity, I think. And I think this is where Web3 has a lot to contribute, because yes, there's a lot of toxicity, but I think that toxicity on the flip side is really compensated by a lot of positivity, and a lot of people are working together to try and get rid of that. And that's what I love about Web3.
Yeah, it's like to take it to the macro level. It's almost like the universe is all pulling for the same thing. Like all the social medias right now are fighting for everyone's content. They're like, we want the creators on our, like, we've been seeing the battle between Twitch and YouTube streamers. Everything they're trying to do for YouTube is trying to like do anything they can to make the creators and the streamers more at home on YouTube than they do at Twitch, so that they choose YouTube. Same thing's happening with shorts content. TikTok is crushing it. YouTube's saying, okay, Instagram Reels are doing okay. We also have TikTok to compete with. That's a lot of competition. We got to really drive some kind of really, really helpful benefits for the creators. Otherwise, they're just going to keep making content on TikTok and then just posting their TikToks onto YouTube like what I do, which is probably really shitty to them. But either way, like everything is kind of there and geared toward bringing value back to these creators, which is literally what Web3 is kind of doing. And like all these people are trying to bring the benefits back to like people doing things and all those things. So it's almost like everyone's pulling for the same thing in the same future, and it's going to be more digital. So in my head, I'm like, dude, that is the metaverse. Like, I don't know what other future we possibly could be headed toward other than a metaverse. And I'm not sure what exactly it would look like, but I don't see another future that's not more digital. And then eventually innovation innovates, and then we keep going. And then that's where the metaverse really becomes a thing, like Ready Player One. What are your thoughts on the metaverse? I don't know how much time you have, but that's a really interesting topic to me.
Yeah, I've got some time. I just got another call, but I can move it actually.
Okay.
What are my thoughts on the metaverse? My thoughts are slightly mixed on the metaverse. So on the positive side, actually, let me start with the negative, because it's better to finish on the positive. The negative aspect of it is a bit of the Ready Player One, which is the fact that as a result, people become a lot more sedentary. They just end up staying at home, living in a virtual world, and then never getting out. I mean, if I can do my shopping at Walmart by literally putting a few goggles on and then walking around and then picking items there. Now, it is more convenient, right? So from that perspective, I definitely think this is more convenient. However, as long as you're going to use that time that you are saving from physically going to the shop to then do something else productive or something for you, then great. However, I get the feeling that it might be a slippery slope for some people, where literally they will do everything in the metaverse, being at home and never leaving their house anymore, right? So that is the potential negative. On the flip side, it will potentially bring people and access to things that they never had access before. Just the same way, obviously, the internet has done this, but some countries out there that are kind of remote and again don't have the same communication facilities than some others have. In terms, again, of convenience and in terms of new ways of interacting with people, I think the metaverse as humans, we are just at the same thing at our infancy. We're just toddlers from a human, from a world humanity perspective. We're literally just toddlers in terms of where we are in our evolution. And I think the digital revolution, the metaverse, is literally the beginning of a next phase of our evolution. And I think our minds are really going to expand and develop into something new. So by the time you and I, are 100, the world will be completely different than what it is right now.
Yeah, and I mean we're seeing a sneak peek of that with like social media right now. People already are basically living a double, not a double life quite, but like they pay attention. They want their Instagram to look good. They want to make sure their dating profile looks right. And I'm like, we're already living in a version of that. It's just going to be a more I don't know, a version of social media on steroids minus the phone. Like that's something that Mark Zuckerberg talks about a lot. He's like, we're not going to be able to take this next step if it's a phone. It's got to be something immersive where we're in there. And in that sense, I'm like, there's too many smart nerds out there who want this shit to happen, and too many people like me who are going to document it all. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, it's inevitable. Who knows if it's good though? I'm sure there will be shitty parts and great parts. But either way, I don't know. It's gonna be wild.
I mean, Google Glasses. I gotta tell you, when Google Glasses came out, how long ago was this? 10 years ago now?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it was a little while ago.
I have to tell you, I loved the idea of it. Right, the fact that everything would be so much more accessible. You would get the fact that you can get access to so much more information about stuff you don't know. Right, the beauty of the internet is that now you can learn so much more. We are so much more knowledgeable than our parents were, and that their parents were. Right, and a lot of this is as a result of the internet. Right, there are obviously negatives, but every technology has positives and negatives. Right, so the Google Glasses were really futuristic, but the world wasn't ready for it.
Yeah.
But now it's happening. I mean, look at all the robots, all the very sort of realistic robots, what's coming out of Boston Dynamics. I mean, the world is only going to become more futuristic. It's going to be about using it in the right way.
Yeah, dude. And there's AI coming out. There's a whole lot of things. So maybe we'll have to bring you back on for another podcast because I know you got to get out of here. Rapid fire, 2 questions, super quick. What's your favorite food chain?
Food chain?
Yeah, something random. Favorite food chain?
Sushi, man. I love sushi. I got to tell you, I love sushi. Yeah.
Is there a specific place or just sushi?
Well, here, unfortunately, we don't have that many places that make good sushi. So Sushi Samba is sort of like the best place. But in the States, I very vividly remember I was living in Bethesda in Maryland, and there was this small little just sushi shop that was right around the corner. And at the time, my girlfriend was taking me there. She's like, this is the best sushi in town. It's so good. And the guy, we were talking about the work ethic. You could see that the chef was taking pride in making that sushi. And it was awesome. Yeah, I love sushi.
Legend. Honestly, that's the only question. That's a great place to end, I think. Guys, if you made it to the end of this podcast, you're here live with us. I don't know what medium you're on. There's TikTok. There's a whole lot of them. Thank you so much for being here. Click the like button if you're on the YouTube stream. Subscribe to the channel. Join the kingdom. I have X2Y2 stuff and his stuff down below in the description. I think that's pretty much it. Dude, thank you for coming on. This was great. Hopefully we'll bring you back on and we'll dive into more.
For sure. No problem. It was a pleasure.
There, guys. Right on. Guys, until next time, continue on your Joyage, continue to learn, and be grateful you're alive watching this video.